Hey, everybody. Love Wednesdays when we kick it off with Sean Salisbury at 3. Let me remind everybody, Jerry Reynolds, Ryan and Sacktown at 4. We got the Kings and the Suns tonight. Ryan with the pregame show. Jerry joins us at intermission, and then we'll take your phone calls and we'll wrap it up on the postgame show. Sean, it's always good to have you on. I want to start with the Bears. What a freaking mess. They fire their offensive coordinator. Sean, you played for a lot of different coordinators in the National Football League. Is this a cop-out? How much goes on Williams? How much goes on the Bears management, their offensive line? But regardless of who you want to put the blame on, this looks like a mess.
Well, yeah, at this stage of the season, it's the I confess he did it thing, right? And
Yeah.
Now, listen, I know Luke Getsy went through it with the Raiders, and we said we're one, like, I think, team number 3 this year that has gotten rid of their coordinator, or, well, the Jets, Downing came in and Hackett was moved to. So I think we're 3 of them. It feels like one of those where the big bosses say, do something or it'll be you next, right? Or the coach, they sit down, they're not getting the progress they want. So is it just is it just the coordinator where you're like, oh, man, you suck? Well, no, things aren't going well, but the quarterback hasn't played as well after a pretty good start by him. The offensive line, this team's 4 players away from being 4 players away. But they really are. Yeah, they are. But here's the pecking order. Head coach abusive. I mean, now he's not abusive to them. We all, when I say abusive, I'm talking about in football terms.
Yeah.
I'll abuse it when you lose. It's his fault. Look at what Mike McCarthy's going through on a week. His own players are, with Micah Parsons. So it's the head coach, all the media and fan, and we're all like, what the hell are you doing? Even though you didn't make one tackle this week, it's still your fault, right? The guy was there and he ran through it, but that's your fault. And then the coordinators, both of them, and then the quarterback. And sometimes the quarterback's above the coordinators, but since you're a rookie and you're the first pick of the draft, you're going to get the hall pass because we just assume somebody's supposed to work magic on a rookie quarterback like they've done with Jaden Daniels and C.J. Stroud. That's not the norm, okay? The way Caleb Williams has played as a rookie is the norm. It just is. Bo Nix had his, up and down. It's rare that you like Jaden Daniels. You're playing like you've been in the league 8 years. But, yeah, so it is. It's one of those. And, Grant, bad football teams, you could be calling the same plays and getting a couple extra breaks, and he's keeping his job. Listen, Bobby Sloak was a hero. They loved him here as the offensive coordinator in Houston last year. Do you realize there's people in Houston now after what's gone on these last few weeks saying, well, he's in over his head. Maybe we should consider making a change to the quarterback coach to call plays. That's the world we live in, and social media enhances that. It's not an easy job. It sucks. I don't know. And have some taken a step back? Sure. They needed to do some better things, Chicago. I'm just going to tell you this. If Matt Eberflus' team doesn't get going, he ain't going to have a job either. Ben Johnson's going to be the guy they're going to interview from Detroit and a couple others to see if they can get somebody to take it. So he's probably feeling that heat as well. Like, okay, how do I get where they show, and they're in a tough division. There's 3 pretty damn good teams in front of them where it shows that we're making progress so I can steal another year or two, not in a bad way, but so I can, maybe they'll want me on and extend my contract. We can go win 4 or 5 in a row and we show signs of life on offense. So, yeah, it's a combination of it all. The easy way to do it is say we're struggling. It's got to be them. Now, you and I aren't in their meeting rooms, Grant. We don't know what's being said and if anybody's checked out, but it appears to me that it's easy to do that, but the history over the last few years also says when you go back and look at some of the quarterback struggles with the coordinator, that maybe it was the wrong hire in the first place.
Yeah,
there are some of that, and you never know until you see it. And it doesn't surprise me, and it won't be the last time a coach is fired before the season's over this year.
Sean, you mentioned the Texans. You obviously live and work in Houston. I was more confident when I watched the Texans last season than I am this season. The Jets game was a debacle, but it was a Thursday night, long travel, short week. I kind of give them a pass on that. I don't give them a pass for how they blew this game against the Lions.
No, I don't either. And Grant, after seeing them, here's what happens. Last year, and just from my vantage point, I watch each game, the teams twice. Especially the Texans, since we're going to talk about it all week, right? Everybody's got an answer from a distance. But you can tell in DeMeco Ryans' talk when you're criticizing, when your quarterback, he says he's got to be better with the football. You got to protect it better. It's a direct, you got to play better. Yep. But you go down and look at this team. Now, the defense is flying around, Grant. They played well enough to win, right? They are flying around, and they did it without Anderson. I mean, their safeties are nasty. This is going to be a really – I actually think in the next couple of years – you're looking at a dominant defense. But the coordinator's taking a step back. Stroud, you look at the numbers, he has taken a step back this year. injuries to Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs. That's fine. But we also ask our quarterbacks to do something different when you're losing your best players. That's what we consider the great ones that us mere mortals couldn't do, that some of them can. But you think about it, Grant, they were a 3-win team last year. And so when you're a 3-win team and you're on your first and a rookie coordinator and a rookie head coach, what are you doing, right? And a rookie quarterback. You're just saying, man, let's put this stuff in. Let's see how it goes, and let's get this energy. Let's build a change of culture. And they did. They won 10 games. That's a 7-win difference.
Huge.
This offseason, Grant, banquet circuit, everybody telling you how good you are. I'm not saying they didn't work. I know they put the time in, but there's an added pressure that goes with it. 10 wins is not enough.
And you're not sneaking up on anybody.
And now we went and got Joe Mixon, who's been our offensive MVP this year, and make no mistake about it. He's been phenomenal. So as a coordinator, you get to the point, so I can be a little more conservative. We got a lead. Let's just give it to Joe, and they run first down, second down, then you throw on third. Now, Grant, I want you to think about this. Do you realize that they have been in 3rd and 10+, not 1st and 10+, 3rd and 10+, 50 times this year? 50.
Wow.
50. They're averaging 5 times a game.
Wow.
Where they're a 10-yard, 3rd and plus, 10+ yards. So it tells you one thing: too conservative or not executing on first down. Because first down is the most important down in the world to me. Give me 7 yards, I dictate the tempo. Give me 2 yards, you do, as a defensive coordinator. So it tells me they're not executing early downs, that they're playing a little too safe, and that they're pushing the ball to a place they don't need to. Maybe they're trying to be too cute. Maybe they're trying to play not to lose as opposed. It looked to me in the second half they played not to lose. Aggressiveness backed off, and Detroit with Ben Johnson said, "The hell with that. We're going to do what we always do." Yeah, they come coming. Grant, I was in my room, I was sitting next to my girl, and I said, "Here's what's going to happen." I said, they were down 15. I said, "When you wake up, went to bed, I'm going to tell you right now, do not be shocked that Detroit come back and win this. I've seen this movie with them. Now they started against Minnesota slow, and they come back." Yeah. And Ben Johnson doesn't – they run it, and you saw at the end of the game they imposed their will in the run game against the Texans defense. So
yes, they did.
Red zone, and their kicker came through. To me, it almost feels like we got so much to live up to, and the Chiefs and Baltimore, and we're a 10-win team, that they're not playing as loose and free this year on the play calling side, on the aggressiveness side, on the quarterback execution, and then the cumulative effect. And they played better last week. We say played better. They still gave up 4 sacks. Yep. But some of that's on the quarterback. Is what happens, Grant, is the cumulative effect of a quarterback. Ooh, I'm going to get hit. Oh, what if I do get hit? Ball comes out different, maybe a little premature. Or you hold it a little later because you're trying to buy time. You take a sack or you're throwing the ball. All those things come together, which leads to, I'm with you, more talented team this year, had a few injuries, less productive this year for whatever reason. So at 6-4, I think it's not soft physically. I think it's make no mistake, when you talk about Detroit, Kansas City, Baltimore, are the Texans capable of beating them? Sure. But if they played 10 times with the way the Texans aren't playing 60 minutes, those 3 or 4 teams are going to beat them 8 out of 10 times because of Andy and them. They're just not backing off. And you have to have that aggressiveness, but smart with the football.
Sean, is Jerry Jones going senile? His comments about Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense is baffling to me.
Well, it's become every week. I know you do too, Grant. I love a guy who can market, and Jerry knows how to make money. Damn, we all wish we could make money.
Best ever
like
in the history of the NFL.
There's no question.
Right.
And I'm okay. And you know what? Jerry's always been good to me. I like the guy. I do. I think he beats to a different drum. But every time I've been around him, he's always been fun and a good dude. And he's always accessible to the media. Too accessible. When your owner is the face of the franchise, you are screwed, dude. I'm just telling you. Name me a franchise in any sport. Golden State Warriors run. Dr. Buss, when he was at the Lakers, he was not the face of the franchise. He didn't want to be. Mr. Kraft, Mr. Rooney, the Hunt family. Find me an owner who's the face of a franchise that wins.
Great point.
I'm talking about the wins championships regularly. You can't. And then not only do you want to be the face of the franchise, you're also the GM. And you can't all these other things. The smartest thing Jerry could do is hire somebody who would take away the face of the franchise from him, meaning a head coach that's not going to do whatever Jerry wants and will challenge him a little bit, like Parcells did, and that didn't last.
But Jerry can't do that. He's in his 80s. That's never going to happen with Jerry. He's not capable of that.
That's what I said. I said that's why the Cowboys aren't going to win a championship while Jerry's alive. Yeah. And I hope he lives till he's 120. But I'm just telling you, football guy there, if Jerry would put that part of him aside and say, you know what, I'm going to turn it over to somebody like a Belichick or somebody who, you know what, let's try it different after 1995. Okay. Since the mid 90s, let's do something different here, but he's not willing to do it. So I don't know if it's senility or Jerry, whatever it is, because he's still sharp, but if I want something said, can you imagine if players and coaches said the same things he said about the team, what an owner or a general manager or a coach would do to them? It's like, dude, enough. Quit talking. They'd limit him from talking. Hence why Bill Belichick always said, nobody's talking but me. So listen, and they're not talented as they've been in the past. They don't make enough plays. The quarterback needs help around him. The head coach has not had his best season by any stretch of the imagination. Defensively, they give up 30-plus points a game. They're awful at home this year, unlike last year. Yep. So, this is a bad football team that's led by a guy who's, I think what it is, even not the senility, I think he is greatly misjudged the talent he has presented to his football team.
No question.
Overplayed his hand.
For decades.
Right, and when your biggest get was Zeke Elliott in the offseason, aside from the two guys you paid, CeeDee Lamb and Dak, you paid him money. But when your biggest gets that, you can't stand up and take a bow as a GM. I'm sorry to tell you. The Dallas Cowboys are very average talent. And then when that average talent's unproductive, then you get clicks and everybody's blaming everybody else. And Jerry has to be partly to blame. Go market, sign the paycheck, stay involved, but let somebody else handle the football side. And let's just see if that doesn't change your fortunes a little bit. I love Jerry. Jerry would fire Jerry if he was if Jerry could fire Jerry, the GM, he can. But if it was somebody else, that GM, Jerry would have fired him 5 times over already.
Sean, USC, you're a Southern California kid. John Robinson before you, after you, but I say John Robinson, who we lost this week. You say what?
I'm still trying to soak it in. When guys getting pushy, he's 89. The time's coming in the next decade. You hope he lives to 100. I have never, and Bobby Ross is fine a gentleman as you'll ever meet. Denny Green was a great football coach. Matter of fact, I think underrated and a great motivator. I've been around I've been fortunate, man. I've been around. Jerry Burns was awesome, and players old school. That Chuck Knox. Think about it. I mean, hell, too bad the quarterback wasn't better because those coaches were pretty damn good. I've been lucky.
Yeah.
No coach that I have ever been around, covered, played for, listened to his motivational speech when they were necessary, the way he handled the team. There's never been a better coach to play for. I didn't say players coach. It's like because he's your buddy. I said a better coach to play for. So that covers. Go ask the backups how they feel. Ask guys who played backup how they feel about John Robinson. You know what they're going to tell you? Loved him. Great football coach. Great man. He's the reason I win. You're going to get a lot of that. So it's easy to ask the superstar, Aikman and Jimmy Johnson. Of course, he loved him. Go talk to the 4th-string quarterback how they like the guy. Go talk to the backup tackle that was a top recruit and didn't leave and transfer because that was John. Coach Robinson. Coach Robinson was the finest coach to play for because he was great football-wise, empowered. Look at his tree. Norv and Want. I mean, as assistant coaches, he's produced some of the greatest football coaches, Hall of Fame assistants. John and his ability to get you in a pregame, and he knew when to hit it, to get you to want to do stuff you didn't even believe you could do. I got so many. I could write a book on Coach Robinson, just what he meant to me and my family. And it hit me hard yesterday. I didn't expect it. And I'm devastated by it, but there's, what's coming. So I'm trying to focus on the good. If my mom and dad were here, my mom would be devastated.
Wow.
Because she loved, and my dad loved Coach Robinson. One quick story, Grant. I don't want to use up time. I think I've told you.
Take the whole show if you want, Sean.
I don't want to. And it's a kind of a way to describe what Coach Robinson meant to me and my family. First of all, when he came to watch me play basketball, he was sitting in the stands with Paul Hackett. I'm not sure if Norv was there because he was coaching DBs until Paul Hackett left. And I had Norv as my offensive coordinator for 4 years. Is Coach Robinson watched me play basketball, and there was like 50 people in the stands that were recruits when you're – and, he told me, he said, I loved you as a quarterback, and that's why you're a top recruit. That's not a pat on the back, just the facts. He said, but you know why I recruited you like I did, and you were our number one recruit, is because I watched you play basketball. And, normally when you want to hear a guy tell you you're the best at everything, it's because your physicality and how aggressive you were and passionate. And that's how I played. I had a defensive mentality on offense, but I could score. He loved the way I played basketball. And I said, man, That's pretty cool to figure out. It really was a quarterback. He liked me as a quarterback. He's like, dude, he's a basketball player. You sign his ass. That's how John went. But the greatest story, last visit about a week before signing date, late January or probably early February, around the second. Signing date was February 8th. I'll never forget it. He came to my house. I invited my best friend from high school over because he was part of the recruiting process. My mom, my dad, my grandma, my mom's mom was there. And we were all there. We had, you come over, you have a little meal, and everybody's his final visit, giving his final speech. And Coach Robinson looks at me after the night and hugs my mom and dad. He's getting ready to leave, and here was his final words. He looked to me in the face, and he said to my parents and to me, and he said, "You're a top recruit, and we want you to come to USC." And this is as close to verbatim as I can tell you. There's no embellishment here. He said, "We want you to come to USC. You have a chance to be a great player. You got a great family." He goes, "We are going to create an environment for you to be successful." Now, I'm 17. I'm 3 months away or 2 months away from my 18th birthday. He says, "We're going to create an environment for you to be successful in." He goes, "But I will tell you this." He's got his 1978 national championship ring. Only John could get away with this, right? Coach Robinson. To a 17-year-old who thinks you're supposed to tell me I'm the greatest player in the world. Everybody else was. Well, Coach Robinson looks and he says, "Regardless of whether you come to USC or not, we are still going to show up on Saturday, and we are still going to win."
Wow.
And that's exactly what he said. Hugged me again, said, "I look forward to hearing from you." We're literally inside like
that's amazing.
84 hours. He gets in the car with Coach Hackett and drives away. My dad standing in the doorway looks at me and goes, "I think you want to be a part of that."
Wow.
Because and listen, you're going through that. Think about the great guy at that decision. Then the next week I got to make a decision. Is it, God rest Jerry Faust's soul, 89
right.
dies. Jerry just died. And Jerry was
passed away.
I'll tell you a story about him another time that you'll friggin' love. Jerry was this fine human. Tim, John Robinson, Lavelle Edwards, all three of them waiting to get a decision. And Lavelle Edwards was as good a human ever. John Robinson, when he told me that, I looked at my dad and said, "Wasn't he supposed to tell me I'm starting as a freshman?" But no, you're going to go earn it because you know what? Every day on the practice field, we got 1,000 cats like you at different positions. And he told me that, and then a week later, John, I ended up signing with him.
That's amazing.
It's emotional. I love Coach Robinson like family, and my mom and dad loved him. And while you make a lot of decisions to go there, if John Robinson was not the coach at USC at that time at 17, I would have been playing quarterback for BYU.
Wow.
Sean, and I love Essen. No regrets of it. But he was the final say that got me to say, I have to play for him. Because I know I'll be somehow, some way I'll be better. And you'll hear those kind of stories from everybody.
I love
there was no finer coach to play for.
Sean, I was doing a preseason game on TV in Houston in the early 2000s, the Raiders and the Texans. I don't know exactly how it happened, but after the game, I end up in a taxi with John Robinson going to the airport. Just me and John and the driver. I've never met John before, never talked with John before. We were in the cab for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And, I reflect back on my career like you have, whether you were as an athlete or ESPN or hearing, whatever. We all have great stories. The best stories that have ever happened to me are the ones that were completely unexpected. That 30 to 40 minutes was one of the most enjoyable conversations I've ever had with somebody that I had been really watching for a lot of my life growing up and watching USC.
John Madden's best friend since childhood.
Right? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I got to tell you, he was such an amazing guy to talk to. He took really genuine interest in me, my career. He was asking me questions about being in New York as a kid. We were talking about me going to see the Jets and the Giants on every Sunday as a kid growing up. He talked to me about the Kings and my NBA announcing. Like, he really was interested in my life. And Sean, it blew me away. And just to listen to him talk, and he shared some of the stories with me because I told him about Mike Lamb and some of the other guys. He was a phenomenal person. When I got out of that car, I was like, man, that's one hell of a human being.
Grant, you're right on. And his recall out of his mind, right? In my recall craziness. I mean, he was phenomenal at it. And he was Madden's best friend since childhood.
Yes,
and
he was talking about that.
Two things. People don't know enough about this. John Robinson, at the end of his, he's in his 80s or whatever, late 70s. And he could have gone back and coached more if he wanted to, a Hall of Fame college career. He was John Madden's spotter the last handful of years of John's career. You talk about humility.
Whoa. He was his spotter?
Spotter.
Oh, my God.
He traveled with him. He was
Now
a
think about
spotter
that
in the
for a minute.
broadcast booth. Yes.
For the folks
Yeah,
that don't know what a spotter is, that's somebody that stands next to the broadcasters and points out who made the tackle, what number made the tackle, what number. That's like an intern job. You know what I
Think
mean?
how cool that is. Yes, think how cool that is for John Robinson. You got your stat guy put in, but think how cool that is for John Madden. He's got his best friend since they were kids doing this with him, and they talk the same manner. I mean, I'm telling you, if they got the same first name, it was one for the other, and Coach Robinson had a way too. Dude, when you're playing bad, and I wore my emotion on my sleeve and dropping F-bombs on the like, what the am I doing here? Dude, he put his arm around me and refresh. He goes, listen, you're playing like the shits today. That was his favorite word. He loved it. He goes, you're the shits today. He goes, but don't let those guys up front know that. They believe you're making every play and you're going to play perfect. And I'll be damned if it just didn't start to make you laugh and you turn around and start playing good. He had a way of making you like, yeah, you should be cussing. You're the shits. You're playing. You've thrown 2 interceptions, but how are we going to fix it? And then you'd be laughing and kind of forgot. He was brilliant at making you think you were better than you were, or knowing that you were better than you were, and him making sure you grasped onto it. Love him. When my career was over, I still talked to him. I went to Vegas and visited when he was the coach of UNLV. He met me, and we sat down and talked, and we had so many great stories, and I'm going to miss him, man. I hope, and then the little things that people just don't know about who he was, the humility, and also the confidence and arrogance, and he wanted to be – hell, if Eric Dickerson had John Robinson his whole career, Eric Dickerson's the all-time leading rusher in NFL history. John loved physicality, and our practices were more physical on Wednesday than we played on Saturday. I am not kidding. You go talk to Mark. You could talk to any of them.
Yep.
I hold him in the highest regard. I think that everybody should have had a chance to play for John Robinson, and if you didn't, that's a bummer for you.
Well, there's nothing else to say on that note. I love your stories. I love your history. I can't wait to hear about Gerry Faust. I'll try to remind you about that next week because I was at Bowling Green in Ohio during the Gerry Faust era when he was like a household name. Everyone knew.
Well,
Gerry
remember,
Faust.
he was Moeller High School's head coach, which was a national power in Cincinnati. Ken Griffey
Absolutely.
Jr., Barry Larkin.
Oh my God!
He left Moeller High School to go coach the most historic
Exactly.
so you know the regard they held him in. And man, a recruiting story on you can do, Jerry, Sean, I love you. I mean, you can imagine when he came onto my campus.
Oh my gosh!
How many people shook Gerry Faust's hands? I'll just leave it at that and tell you next week and honor the great Gerry Faust, so he and John Robinson can, for different reasons, stand alone, and we can honor them both. But God rest him, and a fine human being, and Coach Robinson. I was lucky, man. As a matter of fact, I'm luckier than the guy deserved to be with all these great coaches and players I was able to play with, man. What a blessing I had to be able to do that with those guys that were far better people and far better players than me.
I honor you, my friend. You're an awesome person, and I appreciate you, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
Thanks for sharing the time with me today, brother. Always appreciate you.
That's great stuff from Sean Salisbury. That's what I love about this show, and I love Sean. He's such a great person. He really is. I'm blessed that Sean Salisbury came into my life. I'm really blessed. Hey, don't forget about New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. They're available around the clock 24/7 for all of your plumbing needs and repairs. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. That's New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. We got a big day here, as I told you on the show. What time is it right now? It's 3:24. So coming up at 4 o'clock, we will have Ryan in Sacktown. We'll have Jerry Reynolds. The Kings and the Suns tonight. Did you see the Mavs and the Warriors game? Wow. What a job by the Warriors in the tribute for Klay Thompson. Spectacular. You can just see what Klay Thompson meant to that organization when all the workers line up in the tunnel as Klay's walking in off the bus. That's special. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. And the tribute they had for him at the beginning of the game, spectacular. What a game. And how about Steph Curry? 37 points, the final 12. I still think, he might still be the best. We talk about the best players in the NBA, and for whatever reason, his name doesn't come up anymore. Big mistake. His name should come up. What a performance. That was unfreaking believable. So we've got that at 4 o'clock coming up here at the top of the hour. And then Ryan and Sacktown with the pregame show. Jerry joins us at halftime, and then we'll have the postgame show. That's all coming up for you, folks. Looking forward to it. And I love talking to Sean. I know that we get so much great feedback every week when Sean's on. The human element to him, his stories, wow, incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank you very much for being with us. I love doing this show. I love being able to talk to people like Sean Salisbury. And in a little more than 30 minutes, we'll talk to Ryan and Jerry right here on If You Don't Like That. Let's see here. Yeah, Jerry's Sunday comments are baffling, talking about Jerry Jones. I don't quite understand that. I don't understand that. Cody says the Bears gave up 8 sacks to the Patriots, 1 of 14 on third down. Yeah, their offensive line's terrible, Cody. Absolutely terrible. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. All right. Again, we'll be back at 4 o'clock. See you then. Thanks for being here on If You Don't Like That. Bye-bye.